We have now our next speaker, which is my colleague Silvia Vivarelli, and she will explain to you how to write an excellent proposal. Silvia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Martin. Good morning to everybody. So what is an excellent proposal? So the first thing to consider is that an excellent proposal is the one that has to somehow support the mission of the program. So meaning of the LifeSet sub-program in that would support the market uptake of renewable energy and energy efficiency, as already explained by Christian in the previous presentation. Next slide, please. We have 5 things to remember from the evaluation process when you are drafting your proposal. So the first one is the process. As I think you might know by now, between the deadline, the call deadline, and then the grant agreement signature for the proposal that are successful, there will be a maximum time of 9 months. And that means if you take into account our deadline and then the time that it takes for evaluation and then all the different steps we have before the grant agreement signature, it means that the proposed action that you are planning to propose will not start before summer or autumn 2023. And this you have to take into account while drafting your proposal to see if what you are going to propose will be still relevant by that time. Next slide. So the other thing you have to keep in mind is that everything you need for preparing your proposal in terms of information, in terms of templates, is in the finding and tender portal. Over there, if we go to the next slide, we will see that you will have the templates and all the different forms. So one part is part A, so the administrative part where you have all the administrative information of proposers and also the budget. Then part B, which is the most technical part where you have to put somehow the information on what you are going to propose and then to deliver. What I would like to highlight here, that's why I put in this slide the table of content of the template, because this shows that we have this technical description structure along the 4 different evaluation criteria that we have. So relevance, impact, implementation, and then resources. But if you look at the kind of sub chapters that you have there, you will see that there are somehow different sections in which we have seen from the previous experience, proposers tend to repeat a lot of the same information, just maybe in a slightly different form, but a lot of the same information. And I would like really to stress that this is not needed. Somehow try to avoid that. Also because, as I will explain in the next slide, you have a page limit, which is quite demanding, because you want really be able to put a lot of information. But what somehow the expert need when they are assessing, evaluating your proposal is the detailed information on what concretely you are going to do, what concretely you think you are going to, you can manage to deliver. And it is in that somehow you need to spend a bit more of time, and to have the possibility to stay within the page limit. It means that you really need to try to avoid to repeat information which is not adding value and not providing additional information to the expert. So in that you will manage then to prepare a successful proposal if you keep this in mind. And the other parts are part C, which I will explain later, and there you have some annexes possibilities as well. Next slide. Once submitted, then the proposal will have to pass admissibility and eligibility check. So to be admissible, of course, it has to have been submitted before the deadline and online. And then you need this also is important to stress that you need to use the last version of the forms and template that you will find on the portal, because because there are always some slight changes, and so it's important to use the last version of the template. Another thing I would like to highlight is in relation to somehow two limits that have been changed. So the ones you see in red. So the first one, since we want the proposal to be readable, and then last year we had indicated a threshold for the font not to be smaller than Arial 9. This year is Arial 10. So please keep this in mind, as well as I think this kind of thing we keep on repeating. You need to leave all the instructions. We cannot assess a proposal if you delete the instruction. So because it has it's a requirement for admissibility. So maximum 65 pages, including the instruction. Then you clearly understand that you need really not to be repeating things in the different section, and then you need to be really leave a space for providing more details and information on the concrete action you are going to propose. Then the eligibility. Over there as well, pay attention to the eligibility criteria that are set in the call document. For example, the criterion that for most proposal is that you have to have at least 3 eligible partners from 3 different eligible countries. But pay attention, because not all proposals have this the same eligibility criterion. For example, this one, for some topics, you have the possibility also to have one countries only proposal. So in that, you are really invited to look clearly at the eligibility criteria that apply to your specific topic. Then you have the award criterion that you have to keep in mind. Next slide, please. In which, I mean, and in that, those have been already somehow explained to you in previous sessions. I'm not going in detail on that, but why we are reminding that here, because you have to have them in mind while you write the proposal, not only because you have the section that refer to them, but because if you look clearly at what we would like you to address in the proposal, what somehow this criterion for us really mean. If you really clearly have this in mind while writing the proposal, this will guide you or drive you through the drafting process, and not just drafting, the before preparation and thinking process. I would just stop a bit on one of these criterion, the impact criterion. Next slide, which is somehow as you see also from the weighting of the criteria, this is the one that has the highest weight in the scoring calculation. Why? Because it's very important. We have a limited budget. We have to use it at the best. We want really impactful actions on the ground. So that's why the impact is weighted more. What we want to see when we assess this criterion, that you have very clear in mind the intervention logic. That is a bit what you see in the right hand part of the slide somehow. A chain in which you first identify your needs. From the needs, then you identify the objectives. So what are the objectives of your action? And then you look at what do I need to achieve those objectives in terms of actions, in terms of resources. And then what then will be what the outputs, and then in terms of the outcomes that you will get out of your action. And if you have this clear in mind, then the impacts will be deriving from them. So the short-term impacts and long-term impacts, meaning 5 years after the end of the project. And you have two types of indicators that you could use. One is program kind of related indicators. So indicators that we have indicated for all topics, such as energy savings, renewable energy triggered. But then you have some topic-specific indicators that have been detailed for each of the topics. And then you have also the possibility, and this clearly this year is clearly stated in the text call, to have more action-specific indicators. But I will tell you more about this later. Next slide. So the impact indicator, you have a section for impacts in part B, but then you have also a specific document section of the proposal that is part C, that is mandatory to fill, that is will become part of the grant agreement and contains some common life KPIs, but also some specific for the sub program set 11 of those. So what is important to remind is two things mainly. The first one is that you need to be consistent between what you put in part B and in part C in terms of impact indicators, but also that the indicators you will put in part C at a certain point, if your project is successful, then if your proposal is successful and you will have a project, then you will be required in time to report on the impacts that you put in part C. So be careful on what impact you are going to indicate there. So now I would like to give you some tips to succeed. So the first one is very logic, I think. Start now mainly. So the call is open. The deadline is 16th of November. It looks like a long time, but there is somewhere in between as well, not only for you, but also for any other members of the consortium. So this you really we really see when proposals have taken the time to draft a proposal. This is really clear. And so if you want to have an excellent proposal, this is the first rule. The second one is where you find, the next slide, the relevant information. So as we said already, is on the portal, and really you need to read the call for proposal. In the portal you have also an FAQ session where you have also specific FAQ for each of the topics, and this as well, please have a look while you decide to apply to a specific topic, because over there you have a very let's say clarifying really question and answers for your specific topic. Next slide. So once you have you see that you have a project idea that is fitting one of our core topic, then what we need to see, first of all, as I mentioned before when I was talking about the impact and the intervention logic, first of all, that you have a clear objectives, so you know what you want to achieve and to aim to, and then that you have also clear what has to be done to achieve this, and what you can use. This is very important, what you can use of what is already available, not to duplicate. We want to see synergies, not overlapping or duplication. And in that we are really careful. As well, we want to see that you have clear how to engage stakeholders. It's important that you have in the consortium partner that have clearly the link with stakeholders, and they have the means to achieve them, to engage them in the project afterward. And then, of course, the impacts, which need to be ambitious, but at the same time realistic, achievable, and really we want to see that the impacts are clearly, credibly deriving from the activities you are going to propose. Next slide. Then I think one was skipped, the consortium one. Previous slide, yes. The fourth element is to have a good consortium. Any successful project has a very, let's say, really a consortium that is fitting the purpose. So you have to have somehow all the skills that are needed for sure. So this kind of complementary expertise. Please have a look in the call text. Very often you have a kind of requirement of stakeholders that should be involved, that are expected to be involved. And even if you don't have a requirement, you will see that from the call text is evident whom should be involved in the consortium. And so you need to have the right actors there. This is really important. You need to involve them from the very beginning. beginning, not just at the end to fill the form of the consortium of the partnership, because we see when a kind of expertise has not been used within drafting the proposal. And also the geographical focus need to make sense for your action, cannot be built artificially. Next slide. As well, the budget cannot be built artificially, so a top-down budget has to be bottom-up. As Christian mentioned, is mainly labor cost that we have, not infrastructure. So meaning that once you have defined the task, then you are able to estimate what is the effort needed, and this translates in person months and euro. So this is the way you should build the budget, and this comes quite clear when a proposal is assessed. Next slide. Then at this point, you are ready to write your proposal. You need really to be careful on the methodology you use. That has to be the one that delivers the impact, with all the working steps need to achieve those impacts. And then on this slide, I only want to highlight that as I said, impact is important. To achieve a higher impact, we need to have a good communication and dissemination strategy in your proposal. And this you need to keep in mind as well. The guiding element is always impact. Next slide. Then for the final polishing, you need to have it's important that you check consistency between all these different sessions, that you have all the different tables and all of that. And sometimes it's useful to have someone external that has not been involved to ever read through it, especially if native English speaker, this could help. Next slide. And here we would like to provide you with some lessons learned from the previous call. So the first one, maybe I should have put this more clearly in the slide. In the call text, if you look at if you identify a call topic under which you think you would like to submit your action, if you look at the text of that topic, over there, you have guidelines on how to write an excellent proposal. So everything you need to have in an excellent proposal is written in the call topic text. This really needs to be remembered. And this also, as I said, in terms of stakeholders to be engaged. Then the other issue that is important to keep in mind and is the focus that we want to see, because if you don't have a clear focus in your proposal, it means no clear objectives, no clear way on how to idea on how to achieve those objectives. Meaning that you will see under the different topics, there is under scope, you see normally different issues or areas of work that can be addressed by a proposal. But unless is clearly indicated in the specific call topic text that you have to address all of them, but this I think is, I'm not sure if this is even the case, but if it is, it's just for few topics, call topics. Otherwise, please try to identify what you really need to focus on for your proposal. If not requested by the call, don't try to address all of them, because then if it's not required by the call text, it means that you risk to have an unfocused proposal. Then what I think is the main thing that experts look is if the activities you are going to propose, that's why you need to spend time drafting them, could credibly lead to the concrete achievements and impact that you somehow promise in the proposal. That's why we need more activities, as I say, description, so more details on what you are going to do in the project. And the stakeholder engagement, as I say, is essential. This really was in some proposal last year was really clearly missing, and we want to stress more and more, both in the consortium, both letter of support, all the things that you can provide to show that you have really in the consortium the right contacts, links, expertise to achieve all the stakeholders that you would like to engage. And then, as mentioned before, you find a list of impact indicators per topic, and not all of them might be relevant. So just don't try to, in some proposals last year, we have tried that they artificially try to address all the impacts that were listed. Unless explicitly required, you don't have to. You just address the ones that are relevant for your action. And then you can propose other relevant project-specific performance indicator. This is possible. Next slide. Just one example from a successful project, next slide, is the CARB City Pipes 2050 project. So this project aims at developing local transition roadmaps to replace fossil fuels, in particular natural gas, from residential heating by 2050. And you see how relevant, especially now, this has become, but it was already very relevant 3 years ago when the evaluation took place. And it aims to do that in 7 cities: Bilbao, Bratislava, Dublin, Munich, Rotterdam, Vienna, and Winterthur. Next slide. Why this was an excellent proposal when it was submitted? For the reason you see on the left side. So first was the partnership. There was an excellent partnership. So you want to implement something in city, you had 7 cities involved in the partnership. Somehow they need coordination. They need somebody having a wider view, not just a specific city view to a university in kind of the coordination or guiding role. And then a network of EU cities, EU networks of cities for the dissemination and replication. So to increase the impact, excellent consortium. Then the idea, the concept. So the concept, so the preparing these transition roadmaps at city level was perfectly in line both with the core topic at the time, but also with the policy context. So very fitting in terms of relevance. The methodology. The methodology was extremely robust and detailed. It was based on this concept of establishing local working groups and then having the city learning one from each other. And this was considered a very pragmatic and achievable kind of approach to achieve the objectives. The impacts were ambitious, but at the same time achievable with action proposed. So somehow the impacts, the main impact was to empower more than 220 public officers and also to improve more than 50 policies at the local level. Quite ambitious. And then they had an extremely well-structured implementation with very logic work plan, interconnected work packages with a clear description of the activities they were planning to implement. So making very clear, we have clear what to do and how to do it. Then the dissemination was also quite well structured. So somehow with a very kind of replication program with an outreach of more than 500 cities, and also the commitment to replicate the activities in further 80 cities. And this was supported by the right players. So the stakeholders, so key stakeholders were involved in the consortium, but also out of the consortium, though they show to very well very relevant letter of support that they had also many other stakeholders backing up the action. And also they set up a very well composed high-level advisory board to advise them. So this is how an excellent proposal can then become a funded project, and we still think that this could be this is an excellent project. For the moment, is delivering very well. So next slide. So the source of information and the support, some were previously mentioned by Christian. So register to the Clean Energy newsletter. But then apart from the info days, you have the live set mailbox in case you have a question in the future while you are drafting the proposal. You have some clarification needed on the call text or on the process. And then of course what is important is that you build, as we said on what is already existing. So there is the Cordis database for the project that we have supported under the Horizon 2020 program. And over there, please find the projects that we have already supported in your area of work, not to, as I say, duplicate or replicate, or simply replicate. You can if you have some innovation in that or a kind of high impact expected, but build on what is already there. Okay, so that's all for me. I think I thank you very much for your attention.